All right, the drawing's done and time to have some fun with the paint. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add a little bit of tone to one side of my building. I'm going to pretend my building is going to be white basically, but one side is going to be a little bit darker. And when we look at any object in the real world that's all the same color, if it's got different faces, you're usually going to see different tones just based on how the sun is hitting the object. So for instance here, there's a window over there, but this side is darker than this side, and that gives this some dimension. You could certainly make an argument, well, look, the sun's hitting there and there's a light here, and that's why I didn't want to paint these two the same, different colors, and it's fine the way it is and so on. But I think you'll agree, when I get a little bit of tone here, it's going to make this building pop a little bit, and this is supposed to be the kind of the focus of our picture. So I'm just going to start with a little puddle of water, my mixing tray, and just grab a tiny little bit of black. It does not take much to make a gray. Maybe add a little bit of white to it or something like that. And all I'm going to do now is just kind of fill in this other side quickly. Again, it doesn't matter to me if it's a little bit messy, a little bit sloppy. I'm taking a moment to kind of stay within the lines. It's okay, it's a little dark. I've got some paper towel here though. I'm just going to blot a little bit of that. Take a little bit of that paint out. Oh, paint away, pardon me. Like that. Already, hopefully, it looks like, we've got these different sides going on. The other thing I'm going to do is I've got a little bit of this paint here, and I'm just going to add, I'll zoom in here, a little line over here on this side. And that helps give the roof a little bit of dimension, I think. We can figure out what color the roof's going to be in a bit. I'm going to be adding some windows and some other details too. Now, the background here is going to be trees. You can imagine this is a field. Our house or building is sitting here, the trees, and then this is going to be sky. So for the trees, I don't want them to be all the same color. I want there to be some variety, and that's where our skill in mixing different greens comes into play. So I've got all these different areas of the mixing tray, and I'm going to have a few different greens going on here. So I'm not going to do one color and then mix another color. I'm going to be kind of going back and forth. So let's start with a green that's kind of in the middle. So it's going to be kind of my kind of go-to green. Now that green from the set looks a little artificial to me. So maybe tone it down just with a little bit of red, like that. And that's not going anywhere. That's going to be fine. Now, I'm going to add a little more green here, and I'm going to make something that's lighter. I'll add a bit of yellow to it. Okay. Maybe a little bit of white too. Got this white over here. You can probably guess what's going to happen here, but I'm going to have a darker green for these like shadows and stuff. And I'll be changing these colors as we go. So to this one, I'm going to maybe add a little bit of brown and just a little bit of that red too. So hopefully you can see that I've got these different colors. Now 3, I just kind of decided to do it because these 3 sections of the mixing tray are visible to the camera. You might use more. And now I think I'm ready to go. So I'm going to start the other ingredient too. Besides, we've got green with white and a bit of yellow. This one here's got a little bit of red. This one's got some brown in it. The other ingredient, of course, is water. So I'm going to start with the lightest version and just start adding a little bit of that color. Now I don't want it all to be exactly the same, so maybe I'll go over here now and grab a little bit of that darker color. I'm not concerned with trying to draw a tree like, I'm not doing like this. Kind of thing, What I'm trying to do is just kind of suggest that in the background there are these different trees. And I mean, it's not important to me that, you can see the trunks of them all and stuff like that. I just want this kind of general green in the back. I'm starting to run out of my light color, which is all right. I'll just make a little bit more here. I'm using the side of the brush, not quite staying within my lines, but again, it's just background, you know? And we don't want it to be too defined. If you start doing every little branch or doing individual trunks and stuff like that, then suddenly the background is going to be the most important part. And that's not what we want here. So, working from light to dark. So I've got this light color going on here. A lot of water. I've got my paper towel that I'm using to dab sometimes when things get a little bit too thick, a little bit too dark. Now here's my darker color. And I'm just going to use that just to dab around in some different places. Just to suggest that, you know, the trees have branches and there are parts that are closer to us and parts that are further away. Look, even when I just do that with my hand, you can see that it's darker in here and lighter here. It's the same thing with the trees. Now, if you want to go ahead and try and kind of suggest like a particular, like a tree that's in the background like that, that's okay. I'm not too good at that myself, but you can do it. And again, I'm going back and forth using all these different greens. And part of the charm of watercolor, I've said it before, is this kind of unfinished look. That's okay. I'm trying to avoid little lines. What I want is more just color. I don't want to see lines. The lines all belong to the building. A little dark over here. Just going to add some water and then kind of sponge it up a little bit. That's better. So now it kind of looks like this building is sort of sitting there against this backdrop of trees. I've got this this area here now. I'm going to try and do something I wasn't planning on doing, but I just occurred to me. I'm just going to do a little path. It's going to be dirt. So the brown from our set is a decent kind of dirt color, but you know, I don't often use just the pure color. I'm usually mixing. So there's a little bit of white, maybe a little bit of yellow with it. Or Islander, PEI, and a little bit of red to it maybe too. So, I got this big pile of dirty color, which is what I want. And I'm just going to do, well, I guess there's a few different ways to do it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do like a dirt road. So the dirt road is going to go in front of the house like this. So maybe this is like an abandoned building or something. So lots of water, because I don't want to be going back and forth too much. And I'm going to be using the side of the brush. And the idea is it's not going to be perfectly straight because it is, you know, an older, unused road in the country sort of thing. And I don't want it to look perfect. So this path is in the foreground here. Again, this is the middle ground, and then what's going to be the sky is going to be our background. For a lawn, let's use green, and let's tone it down with a little bit of yellow maybe. Now, there's going to be a few different steps with the lawn here. But first off, I want to differentiate it from the background. So I want to make it a slightly different color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to both brighten it up, so a bit of white and a bit of yellow, but I'm also going to water it down a little bit. I'm using a lot of water. If I had a bigger brush, that might be useful, but I'm just going to continue using this one small, the small brush that I'm using for the entire picture, the number 2. And I'm just going to quickly add a little bit of that background color. Sorry, I just called it background color, it's not background. And again, I don't mind if I'm leaving a little bit of white space here and there. Now, to suggest that there's more detail here at the front, I'm going to take this color and I'm going to darken it up a bit. So I'm going to use a bit of that pure green, maybe a little bit of red. And I'm just going to do a few little flicking kind of lines at the bottom for like tall grass and stuff, or weeds, or some kind of a plant. Now, this is the kind of thing that you might want to practice on another piece of paper first. Doing single little strokes to kind of get it right. It's important, I think, that you do all of these as one motion, and you end up with a nice kind of point at the end. And practice. These ones are better than the first ones I did. So this is stuff that we see close. Imagine maybe we're in a car, we're driving along the highway, and this is the old highway from, 100 years ago. And then we're looking at this building off in the distance. So this long grass here or whatever else is closest to us. But just because it's closest doesn't mean it's the focus of the picture, Now, if you wanted to go in later on and maybe add some, little blooms and blossoms and little bits of color, that would be great. But for now, I'm just adding a little bit of interest to the foreground of the picture. Coming forward, and it kind of makes that house look like it's a little bit further away too. We're almost done. So now for the background, the sky. Let's use a little bit of blue. And I'm going to add a little bit of white. And then finally I'm going to neutralize the blue, which means, tone down that blue a little bit. Make it less blue, if that makes sense. And I'm going to use a bit of orange for that. Not much, but a little bit. It's hard with the paints that we have to get a true kind of sky blue color. A lot of water here because I want to be able to paint the sky with as few brush strokes as possible. I'm going to leave room for a cloud too. So here, I'll outline a cloud. And then just continue that blue down to where it meets the trees. And again, it's fairly important to kind of work quickly here. Maybe I'll do a separate tutorial on painting clouds. The most important thing here is I'm just getting this color in. You wouldn't even really need a cloud there, but that's adding a bit of a background. Maybe got a little bit of space here. Yeah, just one more little cloud sort of shape here, maybe. And sometimes you get great cloud sort of forms without even really thinking about it. Like this here looks more realistic to me than that first one. All right, so the last thing I'm going to do is add a bit of a roof. be any color you want, I guess. I'm gonna be conservative and just do it black, which, you know, I am gonna water down. And now here, I'm actually kind of trying to stay within lines and actually paint details. Everything else is really kind of loose. But here, I'm actually gonna try and anchor my hand to the picture. So it's like I'm leaning my hand against the paper here. So it's obviously it's important that it's dry. I just want to make sure that there's enough contrast between the roof and this wall. If there's not, then I've watered the roof color down too much. But you want to be able to see a distinction between the two, you know, between the roof and the wall, right? Last thing I'm going to do, just a few simple little window forms here. So just little rectangles. You could do a door too if you want, but I don't think it needs too much else, frankly. Even that's pushing it, I think. You don't need, you know, you don't want to get too concerned with those kinds of details. But now we got the look of this kind of abandoned house. But again, we got a few really important watercolor kind of concepts happening here, I think. The first is we've been mixing different greens, using, you know, water and white and yellow and brown and red. We've got a foreground, middle ground, background thing. And we're also imagining how the sun hits something at different angles. So the sun must be over here somewhere. That's why this side of the building is getting more sunlight than that one. And that's leading to a little bit of dimension for the building too. So, perfectly acceptable little watercolor painting. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope yours has turned out. And if it hasn't, do it again. I mean, I've done dozens of these. All right, thanks everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.